This is David Bruce Leonard from the Earth Medicine Institute.
And Dr. Janae Devika.
And you are here for another episode of Eat the Aliens. Woo! We are here today with an invasive plant on Maui. It is known as Polygonum capitatum or Persicaria capitata. It was recently renamed. Really interesting plant. This is in a Polygonaceae family, which is in the buckwheat family. And Polygonaceaes are renowned for having a lot of resveratrol-like compounds in them. Resveratrol is a plant substance that appears to extend lifespan. It's also found in red wine and in Japanese knotweed. This plant is very invasive on Maui, and I found out a few years ago that it has a lot of super antioxidants in it, so I began to experiment with it, making green drinks and things. One of the problems with it, though, is it has a lot of tannins, and tannins bind to proteins, which can make it a little hard on the digestive system. So Janae here had a marvelous idea of how to process the tannins in this plant and make it edible.
So we were thinking, what can we do with tannins? We actually we experimented adding protein and acid and all sorts of stuff, and nothing worked. And then I remembered, when you're making kombucha, you have to add black tea or green tea into the kombucha. So the tannins actually feed the process of making kombucha. So we're going to try to make kombucha with Persicaria and see what happens.
So Janae, tell us about kombucha in general. How does it work? Why is kombucha important for our health?
Awesome. So kombucha is basically a fermented tea. Many of you are familiar with yogurt and maybe sauerkraut. Those are other fermented foods where you take a food and you add bacteria to it, and the bacteria grows in that food and it creates a probiotic food that will feed your microbiome. Your microbiome is all those good bacteria inside your body that actually help your body, helps your digestive tract. It actually helps to program your DNA for health or wellness. Your microbiome does a lot of stuff. We have other videos on that. But kombucha is a fermented tea, just like sauerkraut or yogurt, but we're using tea as the medium. And if you'll see here, I've got a little bit of kombucha brewing. This is my SCOBY hotel, and if you'll see this little thing floating on the top, that's called the SCOBY. SCOBY, symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. And basically you make a sugary tea and you throw that SCOBY in there and wait for a week or two, and you have a really fizzy, effervescent beverage that's a little bit vinegary, but it's awesome for your health. It helps to improve your digestion. It has B vitamins in there. It has lots of enzymes in there that help you to digest your food, and it helps to detoxify your body. This just has a lot of really, really great things when you use it as a health beverage. So I've never tried making a green drink into a kombucha before, but we're going to try
this is a grand
today.
experiment. When you're eating the aliens, anything is possible.
Anything is possible. And when you've got two mad scientists in the kitchen, anything is
can
possible. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start out just like making kombucha like we would regularly make kombucha, but all we're going to do different is add the Persicaria in. So here I've made some green tea, and when you're making the tea for kombucha, you're just adding 1 tea bag per cup of water, and you can use black tea, green tea, or a combination of both. I've used green tea for this, and then you add sugar. At 1 cup of sugar per gallon. We're going to make a ½ gallon today, so I'm just going to use a ½ cup of sugar. And actually that's a little bit more than a ½ gallon, so I'm just going to put a little bit extra in. What the sugar does is it gives the bacteria something to eat. Bacteria, in order to grow and replicate, they need food, and that's what the sugar is for them. So as long as you have enough sugar in there, the bacteria will continue to grow, and they will form bigger scobies, but also as the bacteria are growing, they eat the components of the tea, and their waste products are the nutrition, basically, that you're getting out of the tea. So just make sure that sugar is completely dissolved in the tea. And then normally what you would do is you just take a SCOBY from a pre-existing batch of kombucha, throw it in there, cover it with a paper towel, and wait for a week or two, and your kombucha would be done. And again, we're going to alter this a little bit by adding the persicaria to it. We're going to make a green juice out of it first. So we're just going to pour some tea in the blender, add some persicaria. We've already taken this off the stems and washed it really well.
Really lovely plant. It's a creeper, and it creates dense mats in an upcountry Hawaiian native forest. So it's a perfect alien to utilize. It has little purple pink flowers and a really distinct leaf shape, and a leaf shape that has a chevron on it, a V shape, kind of a purplish V shape. And when it's in the sun for a long time, the whole plant will turn kind of a rusty red color.
Now, sometimes with some leaves, some plants, you can juice it in a regular juicer, and you'll get great juice out of it. With persicaria, though, it's kind of a dry leaf. So if we put this through a juicer, we'd get practically nothing out of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to blend it up with a liquid and then strain it, and that's how we're going to make our green juice. Plug your ears, it's going to get loud. All right, after we blended that up, you just want to make sure that all the particles are nice and small and blended well. And then we have a nut milk bag or a strainer bag here. I'm going to just put that into the jar like so. Do you want to hang on to that so it doesn't fall through? We're just going to strain all of the fiber out of this. You'll notice it's kind of foamy. A lot of air has gotten in there, but it will settle down and the foam will settle out of it in an hour or so. Good. Then all you do is just twist the top of the nut milk bag and squeeze all that juice out. And what you'll have left over is an amazing green juice made out of that sugary tea. Alright, we'll strain this last bit. And if you'll notice, there's such a beautiful green color. Yay. Just squeeze all the rest of the juice out of that, and then we'll be ready to make the kombucha. When you add the SCOBY into your tea, you need to add also a little bit of pre-made kombucha into there, or if you don't have enough pre-made kombucha, you can add a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and that'll drop the pH enough that the bad bacteria won't be able to grow and the good bacteria will be able to grow. And again, make sure that you're using clean hands, clean utensils, clean jars, clean everything. You don't want any bad bacteria getting in there, and you also don't want a soap residue on anything because that will also kill the bacteria. Also, make sure you're making your tea or your green juice with filtered water. Chlorine will also kill bacteria. So I'm just gonna pull, I've got very clean hands. Woo. I'm gonna pull my SCOBY out of here. Can you see that?
That is amazing.
See that? So you throw that in there, and what'll happen is it'll grow, and these bacteria are also anaerobic. So if you noticed on this jar, this was like totally sealing off the top. So it creates an air seal so that the air does not get into the kombucha. And that's what'll happen with this too. By tomorrow, there will be an air seal over the top of this kombucha SCOBY to protect it. And we might need to scrape off, like, I'll keep an eye on it. We might need to scrape off the foam. That might cause a problem. But so then what we're going to do is usually add a cup of pre-made kombucha to a gallon of tea. So I'm just going to add like around a cup of this pre-made kombucha. That'll drop the pH a little bit. You'll see that there's lots of other SCOBYs in there. This is my SCOBY hotel. When you have extra SCOBYs, you just put it in some sugar tea and then store them there for when
Elvis wrote a song about that. SCOBY Hotel.
SCOBY Hotel, yeah. That's right. And that's it. And you want to make sure there's airflow going through there, but you also don't want bugs and stuff crawling in there. So what I do is I just put a paper towel over the top and then wrap a rubber band around the paper towel. And then with a Sharpie pen, I just write the date that I created this, and then I can keep track of when I should start checking it. Generally, kombucha takes, again, depending on the temperature, a week to 3 weeks, but since we're in Hawaii and it's really warm here, I'm going to start checking it around 5 days. Now, what's the date today? I don't even know. We're going to say it's the 18th. So the way you know the kombucha is done is it will start to get a really tart vinegary flavor, and you'll be able to taste the bacteria actually eat the sugar, so the sugar content is almost gone by the time the kombucha is made. So this is not, although you start out with a very sugary beverage, it doesn't end up being very sugary. So you'll know it's done because you'll be able to taste a tiny bit of sweetness left, but mostly it'll be tart and vinegary. It will smell very tart and vinegary, and if you put a pH strip in there, you can, we'll make a little note at the end of the video. I forget what the pH should be, but if you really are worried about it, you can stick a pH strip in there and check the pH.
Okay, and you can also add in things after it's done fermenting, correct? You can add different tropical fruit juices or things like that?
Absolutely. So this is called the first ferment. So the first ferment is when you take the sugar tea, put the SCOBY in, and let it sit for 1 to 3 weeks. Then you take the SCOBY out and you have your kombucha tea, and then you can do what's called a second ferment, and this is where it adds carbonation and flavor into it. So for instance, if we wanted a mango kombucha is one of my favorites, I would take the finished kombucha tea, we would take the SCOBY out, add some mango juice or some blended mango chunks, and then you would put, instead of putting the paper towel over the top so you can have air circulation, you'd put a tight lid on top. And then you would leave it for about 2 to 3 days, and what happens is the bacteria put off a lot of carbon dioxide as they're digesting the sugar from the mangoes, and as long as you have a really tight lid on there, the carbonation will get pressurized into the tea, and you'll have a really great carbonated tea, just like soda.
Great.
All right.
Thank you. This is David Bruce Leonard
And Dr. Janae Devika
from the Earth Medicine Institute, wishing you happy alien hunting.
Aloha.
Aloha.